momentum behind him now. Then you got Ian Parker, who had a great weekend also, righted the wrong on one of the matches he had last year at Nationals that didn't go his way against the Nebraska kid. And then you got Jarrett Dagan, who was having a great tournament until just kind of had a mishap and got a little tweak. So we're kind of protecting that a little bit. But if you let that kid run, he'll compete until he dies. He'll do whatever you ask him. But then you got David Carr. He's young. Usually when you're young, you have bumps in the road. David Carr hit a bump. I'm still very, very high on David. The kid's an unbelievable athlete, unbelievable competitor. So he'll go back to the drawing board and he'll continue to get better. And then you got Gannon Gremmel, who knocked off also a couple good competitors, ran into a couple guys that we'll see later on this year. So hopefully he can right the wrong there.
You mentioned it a little bit, but Ian Parker got pinned by Chad Rudd last year at the Nationals, came back and he got the win this year. What's that say about him and his competitiveness and mindset?
When you're a competitor like that, you always want to right the wrong, especially if it doesn't go in your favor. Ian Parker is the type of kid that keeps his nose to the grindstone, and he wants to win. So when you want to win that bad, you continue to make adjustments and you continue to build and get better throughout the year, throughout your career, and Ian Parker's continuing to do that.
What adjustments did you see him make in that match?
The bottom was huge for him. Last year, if you look back on that match, I believe, he gave up a takedown and Red got on top, and that was pretty much the match. He made the adjustment. I think he got taken down early out of Vegas. He got away, and then he was all over him. He suffocated him with that pressure, and he was able to get to his leg attacks, which ultimately changed the game for him.
Is there one important thing that guys can take away from a loss, or is each loss kind of different and you learn something unique from it each time?
I think it's probably what you touched on secondly there is, every situation's a little different. There's, depending on who you're competing against, there's going to be, whether a guy's really good on his feet, maybe he exposes you on your feet, maybe he's really good on top, he exposes you from that position. So it kind of depends on who you're competing against, but ultimately there's a lot usually to take away from a loss, a lot more than there usually is a win. So
everybody kind of talks about David and his ability to kind of put things in perspective and really kind of be singularly focused. How did he come back from Las Vegas, and kind of your impression maybe just being around him a little bit?
Well, if you know David, he's a very optimistic, very upbeat person. He doesn't get too down on himself. He always looks to the bright side of things, and there's two ways you can go about it. And I had this conversation with this weekend is you can right the wrong, or you can put your head down and kind of maybe go the opposite direction where you're not going to have the results you want. And I thought he did a great job of turning it around and coming back and getting third, which, it's not the easiest thing to do, especially when you're the type of kid who's had a lot of success in the past where you're not used to maybe getting beat. But, another conversation we had was this is a whole nother ball game. This is a whole nother level of competition. So, you internalize it, and like I spoke about earlier, you're always going to have bumps in the road, but it's better to have it now in December than it is in March.
David got to Deacon's legs quite a bit. He just couldn't quite finish. What's he have to do to finish those attacks against a high-level wrestler like that?
Well, some of it's technical, some of it's just attitude and getting what you want. To me, it was almost a little shell shock going out there. It wasn't the David Carr that I see in the practice room where I've seen in the last couple of weekends competing. You got to put it in perspective where he didn't wrestle, in my opinion, to the best of his ability, and he knows that. He felt it. You kind of see him start to come out of his shell halfway through that third period. Well, it's a little too late a lot of times, right? So he started to get a little ticked off and started clubbing and banging and moving, and then all of a sudden he was to his legs 3 times. But it takes usually more than 2 or 3 or 4 times to finish against the best guys, and now you're getting an honest feel of what it's gonna be like to beat the top guy in the country.
Todd Small's emergence over the weekend, I mean, you kind of alluded to it a little bit. How much does that impact the decision of what you guys may or may not do at 33 with Gomez?
You know, it's still open for discussion, but I think Todd Small's kind of inserted himself there. Obviously, Austin's got to get healthy and get back to where he can be, and Austin's got to prove himself to us a little bit that he wants to be there if that's the weight class that he wants to go. As far as Todd, I feel really good about the adjustments Todd's made throughout the season so far, and he's kind of like an open book. You know, he's going to continually get better. I mean, you could see him make the adjustments, especially on the bottom wrestling from the last 2 weeks to just over the weekend. Man, there wasn't anybody that really rode him, and that's 1 week's worth of adjustments, in my opinion. So it's the sky's the limit for that guy, and he's got more than the ability to insert himself with the top guys in the country.
You mentioned Dagan got a little injury. Could you elaborate? And will he be wrestling Saturday?
No, I won't elaborate, but if it was his choice, he'd be ready to go. I don't think you'll see maybe Jarrett Dagan this weekend. That'll be a game time decision, but I think we're leaning probably more that way.
Chase Straw came on strong last year at 157, especially towards the end of the season. What's he have to do to regain some of that at 165 this year?
I don't know. Chase Straw is he's a different animal. He had a rocky start last year at the beginning of the year, and then started to get some momentum. So he's the type of guy that really kind of builds as the year goes on. So we got to get his mind going back in that direction, get him start to have some success, and I think you'll see that guy kind of take off. And I'll give the guy some credit. He's probably not as big and strong as some of these other guys, but he continues to get up and fight every single match. And when you're kind of a little small for a weight class, I mean, that's about all you can do sometimes. But I'll give him some credit. He's going to get up every single time, and he's going to compete to the best of his ability, and you can guarantee Chase Straw will be back for more.
And just looking towards this Saturday, do you feel that Chattanooga kind of offers a similar challenges, kind of like Bucknell in terms of scrappiness?
Yeah, I mean, anytime I think a team comes in here, they're looking to kick your butt, right? So I'm anticipating Chattanooga to show up. They got some weight classes that are pretty scrappy. 25, we better be ready to go. 97, better be ready to go. And those are just two that stick out in my mind that I know they're pretty tough in. But up and down the lineup, Dresser always talks about it, but you got to get ready for the next thing in front of you. So Chattanooga's the next thing in front of us, and you don't look past it, and you get ready to compete.
So is the lineup that we see on Saturday, is that going to closely resemble what we see at the Southern Scuffle in January?
That's to be determined a little bit yet. We'll sit down and discuss it. Some of the guys that probably had better weekends than the others, it's probably about half and half. I can imagine you see about half the lineup going to Scuffle. Guys that had really good weekends probably don't need the matches or don't need to insert themselves in the Scuffle near as much as the other guys.
Could we see some red shirts at the Scuffle?
You'll see some red shirts. We'll probably, if I had to guess, we'll take about a roster of about 10 or so.
Anything else, guys? Sweet.